tradition that every Friday night I take all of my kids on a walk around the neighborhood. And this past Friday night we went on our walk, and as we were heading back towards our home, then I smelled something. I smelled a sort of, wintry, smoky smell. And I started thinking, what is it? Is it the smell of burning trash? I don't think so. Is it the smell of burning forest, the Jerusalem forest? I hope not. And I thought maybe it's the smell of a fireplace, of a burning wood stove. And all of a sudden, I was transported back 17 years and thousands of miles away to my sophomore year of college. There was one Friday night, when I was really down. I think maybe I'd had a crush on someone and he wasn't interested in me, or maybe I failed an exam. Something that to me felt like the end of the world. And I felt as though life had no meaning. And while all of my classmates were out, at parties, getting drunk, or at the student union watching a movie, or some of them were in the library studying, I decided that I was going to go on a journey. I was going to go on a journey in search of the meaning of life. So I headed off from the bright lights of the campus, and I headed off into the Maine woods. And I remember I was walking further and further into the pine forest. And at first I just was so awestruck. It just was so beautiful to see. It was snowing really heavily. To see the snow falling on the pine branches, and I just felt like I'm in the most beautiful place in the whole world. But then after I was walking for a few more minutes, I started getting scared. And I thought, what if a wild dog found me out here, or a psychopathic killer? And something happened to me, or what if I just fell and slipped? If I fell and, something happened to me, nobody would find me for days, maybe even weeks out here. And I felt so alone. I'm not sure if I've ever felt more alone in my life, before or since, than I did on that moment walking through the woods. But I said to myself, I am not scared. I am not scared. I tried to give myself a pep talk. I thought, this is a journey that I have to go on. I have to keep on going. I have to keep on going. So I was walking further and further. I got out of the woods and I started walking towards the downtown of Brunswick, Maine. And I got to the river. And I was walking along the river and I saw a bridge. I'd never noticed the bridge before. And usually I'm afraid of bridges. Passing over these high bridges over water, it's scary. But I thought, I'm not afraid. I have to go on this journey. I'm not afraid. So I crossed over the bridge, and it was a really stormy, wintry, blizzardy night. And the river was going crazy and almost licking at my heels. I was I'm not afraid, and I kept on going. I passed over the river. And on the other end, I found this pitch black path. I kept on going, and I kept on going. And at the end of the path, I found a cluster of homes. There were little homes. I was thinking maybe people from the maintenance staff of the college or from the kitchen crew, lived there. And as I got closer and closer, I got close enough to one of the houses. It was a little white house, and I got close enough to see inside, to look inside the window. I remember I saw a table lamp on a table, and I saw a sofa. And I remember seeing in the far corner of the room, I saw a mother and a father holding a newborn baby by their fireplace. And I looked up, and I saw out of their chimney, there were these curls, these clouds of white smoke, going up into the snowy night. And I smelled this sweet, wintry, smoky smell. And just looking at that family, watching that mother and that father and that baby, I felt as though I had never seen a family in my whole life. I felt as though all of a sudden, I was in a fairy tale, and I was looking at a gingerbread house. I felt as though I'd entered a different dimension. And I stood watching that scene for, 10 or 15 minutes. But it was a really, really cold night and really blizzarding. I was getting really, really cold. I'd forgotten to wear gloves. And I knew I had to head back. So I started heading back up the hill towards my dorm room, towards the college. Remember I got there, I remember opening the door to my dorm room, and my roommate and best friend from college, she was with her boyfriend as usual. And I was on my own. I remember lying down and crying and feeling as though, once again, like I had just been a failure. Like, as though there really, really was no meaning in my life. I'd gone on this whole journey and said, I'd not been afraid, and I crossed the river, and I'd gone through the woods, and I'd come back empty-handed with nothing. As I fell asleep, I felt just so alone, and so as though life was so pointless. But I remember that night as I closed my eyes and I fell asleep, then I remembered the river, and in my dreams, like as I fell off to sleep, I remember crossing the river again and going all the way to the other side. So this past Friday night, as I walked up to our house, I smelled once again that exact same sweet, wintry, smoky smell. And when we got to the door, my husband was already home from shul, and he opened the door. And I remember walking into the house, and I was surrounded by my children, and the table was set for Shabbat, and my candles were burning. And I just thought, 17 years ago, and so many thousands and thousands of miles away, who would have ever thought, that I one day would be that mother, like living in her very, very own gingerbread house. So I want to bless all of us. There are many, many times, in fact, most of our lives, we really, really don't feel as though we're living in a fairy tale. When we have difficulties with our husbands, difficulties with our children, when the stock market crashes and we're not sure how we're going to put food on the table in 6 months or in a few days. Things can be really, really hard, but I want to bless all of us that will always remember what a tremendous blessing it is that each and every one of us is on the inside of our very own gingerbread house, is on the inside looking out, and no longer the other way around. I want to bless everyone with an amazing week.